In the velvet shadows of history, where crowns gleamed and scandals snored, the true power of empires was never forged in battle. It was whispered between silk sheets. Welcome to the royal courts, where bedtime wasn't just for beauty sleep. It was for betrayal, seduction, and the occasional treaty signed in pajamas. Behind every throne was a pillow, and inside every pillow, a secret. From the queen, who ruled with lullabies, to the duke who plotted rebellion in his nightgown, this is the story of how empires rose and fell, one bedtime whisper at a time. So fluff your pillow, dim the chandelier, and prepare to be lulled into a world of sleepy intrigue, seductive snores, and history so boring it's scandalously good. And before you drift off into royal dreamland, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which kingdom you're watching from. Bonus points if you're wearing a crown and fuzzy slippers. In the kingdom of somnolentia, where yawns were currency and bedtime was law, Queen Hypnoria, the drowsy, ruled with a velvet fist and a feathered scepter. Her throne was not carved from marble or gold. It was a four-poster bed, draped in silks so soft they once caused a diplomat to weep. The queen's crown tilted slightly to the left, not from poor posture, but from the weight of secrets whispered into her ear by generations of monarchs before her. These secrets, passed down not in scrolls, but in pillow talk, were the true history of the realm. Each night, as the moon yawned over the castle turrets, Queen Hypnoria summoned her down council, a group of advisors so committed to sleep governance, they wore matching pajamas embroidered with the royal seal, a goose mid-snore. Lord Drowsington, the Queen's chief advisor, was a man of great intellect and even greater eye bags. He had once negotiated a peace treaty with the neighboring kingdom of Insomnia by offering them 100 silk pillowcases and a lullaby composed by Lady Snoreworthy, the royal harpist, whose music was so soothing it had accidentally sedated a horse. Tonight, however, the queen was restless. She tossed, she turned, she fluffed, she sighed. Something stirs beneath the sheets of history, she murmured, her voice barely louder than a whisper. I feel it in my pillow. Lord Drowsington blinked slowly. Your Majesty, might I suggest a warm milk infusion and a bedtime story about the Treaty of Tuck-In? No, she said, sitting up dramatically, which in somnolentia meant she raised her head approximately 2 inches. Bring me the royal pillow archives. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The royal pillow archives were sacred, a collection of cushions embroidered with the confessions, conspiracies, and bedtime blunders of every monarch since Queen Naptilda, the flatulent. Lady Snoreworthy clutched her harp. But your Majesty, those pillows are lumpy with truth. I must know, Hypnoria whispered. What did my great-grandmother whisper before she snored her last? The pillows were brought forth, each one labeled with a name and a bedtime rating. Hypnoria selected one marked Queen Naptilda, 4.5 snores, mild scandal, faint cheese odor. She pressed her ear to the pillow, and there it was, a whisper, faint, fragrant, forbidden. She spoke of a secret chamber, Hypnoria gasped, hidden beneath the royal mattress, guarded by the Order of the Sleepwalkers. Lord Drowsington dropped his mug of chamomile. The Sleepwalkers, but they were banished after the Great Pajama Rebellion. The Queen's eyes gleamed. Then it's true. The bedtime stories were real. There's more to our history than naps and nightcaps. Lady Snoreworthy plucked a dramatic chord, and so began the Queen's quest. Not for power, not for glory, but for the truth buried beneath centuries of royal bedding. A truth that could change everything, or at least delay bedtime by 15 minutes. The next morning, which in somnolentia meant sometime after the third nap bell, Queen Hypnoria summoned her down council once again. This time, she wore her diplomatic robe, a floor-length nightgown embroidered with tiny, yawning lions. Lord Drowsington arrived late, having tripped over a rogue slipper in the Hall of Snooze. Lady Snoreworthy followed, dragging her harp and a blanket embroidered with the Treaty of Tuck-In. Today, the Queen announced, we discussed diplomacy. A collective groan rippled through the chamber. Diplomacy was exhausting. It involved words, gestures, and worst of all, staying awake. But not just any diplomacy, Hypnoria continued. Feather diplomacy. Gasps. One noble fainted into a beanbag. Feather diplomacy was the most delicate form of negotiation in the realm. It involved exchanging pillows between kingdoms, each stuffed with symbolic feathers. Dove for peace, owl for wisdom, peacock for vanity, and goose for, well, mostly snoring. The Queen held up a pillow. It was plump, regal, and slightly ominous. This, she said, was sent by King Insomnius of the Sleepless Isles. Lord Drowsington squinted. Peacock feathers. That's either a declaration of vanity or a passive-aggressive compliment. Lady Snoreworthy sniffed the pillow. It smells of lavender and unresolved tension. The Queen nodded solemnly. We must respond. But with what feather? The council debated fiercely, which in somnolentia meant they whispered while sipping warm milk. Dove is too forgiving, murmured the Duke of Drowsia. Owl is too clever. Goose is too us. May I suggest, said Lady Snoreworthy, a hybrid pillow? Half dove, half goose. Peaceful, but sleepy. The Queen's eyes sparkled. Brilliant. Prepare the pillow of compromise. As the royal seamstress stitched feathers with diplomatic precision, the Queen penned a note to accompany the gift. To His Majesty, King Insomnius, may this pillow cradle your pride and soften your sleeplessness. May our kingdoms snore in harmony. Yours in bedtime, Hypnoria the Drowsy. The pillow was dispatched via the Royal Nap Courier, who traveled exclusively by hammock. 3 days later, a reply arrived. A pillow stuffed entirely with hedgehog quills. The Queen blinked. Well, that escalated. Lord Drowsington sighed. Prepare the pajama protocol. Lady Snoreworthy plucked a minor chord. And so, the feathers of diplomacy fluttered into chaos, proving once again that in royal courts, even bedtime could be a battlefield. It began with a lump, not a metaphorical one, a literal, oddly shaped lump, beneath Queen Hypnoria's royal mattress. She noticed it during her nightly roll and fluff routine. Drowsington, she whispered, poking the lump with a scepter shaped like a sleep mask. There's something under my bed. The Lord Advisor, already in his bedtime bonnet, leaned in. Perhaps a rebellious spring, or a rogue biscuit. They summoned the royal mattress inspector, who arrived with a monocle and a yawn. After a dramatic pause and a sneeze, dusty secrets tend to do that. He pulled out a scroll. It was tied with a ribbon and smelled faintly of betrayal. Lady Snoreworthy gasped. That's the seal of the Nightshade Court. The Nightshade Court, a long-banished faction of nobles who believed bedtime should be optional. Monsters. The scroll read, to whomever finds this, The queen sleeps while the truth festers. Beneath her dreams lies the real heir. Signed, the sleepless. The queen blinked. The real heir? But I'm the real heir. I have the bedtime crown and everything. Lord Drowsington paled. Your Majesty, this could mean treason, or worse, a succession crisis before supper. Lady Snoreworthy plucked a suspenseful cord. The queen sat back, her mind racing at a gentle trot. We must investigate, quietly, discreetly, preferably in slippers. And so, the Down Council began their most dangerous mission yet, uncovering the truth beneath the mattress, without waking the kingdom. Lady Snoreworthy was not just the royal harpist, she was the heartbeat of bedtime. Her lullabies had ended feuds, seduced dukes, and once caused a diplomatic envoy to drool mid-negotiation. But lately, her music had grown complicated. Each note she played seemed to carry a sigh, a longing, a secret. Lord Drowsington noticed. Your lullabies sound unusually romantic, he whispered, adjusting his monocle slippers. Lady Snoreworthy blushed. I may have composed them for someone. The queen leaned in, intrigued. Who? A pause, a pluck, a confession. The Duke of Drowsia. Gasps. The Duke of Drowsia was known for his dramatic bedtime entrances and scandalous silk robes. But he was also rumored to be courting the Duchess of Tossington, a woman famous for her aggressive pillow fights. Does the Duke know? Asked the Queen. Lady Snoreworthy nodded. He sent me a pillow, stuffed with rose petals and regret. The Queen sighed. Ah, the language of linen. The Down Council debated the affair, in hushed tones and heavy blankets. Was it love? Was it treason? Was it just a particularly poetic nap? In the end, the Queen declared, let love bloom, but only after lights out. Lady Snoreworthy played a lullaby so tender, half the court fell asleep mid-scandal, and thus the affair continued, tangled in sheets, stitched into songs, and whispered through the halls of somnolentia. Lady Buttonsworth, the royal tailor, noticed something odd while mending the Queen's ceremonial pajamas. A hidden pocket stitched into the hem with thread darker than midnight tea. Inside, a note. The crown sleeps, but the truth stirs. Tonight, the pajamas rise. Lord Drowsington read it twice, then once upside down, just in case. It's a plot, he whispered. A pajama plot. The Down Council gathered in the royal dressing chamber, surrounded by robes, slippers, and suspiciously fluffy nightcaps. Lady Snoreworthy gasped. Could someone be using sleepwear to smuggle secrets? The Queen narrowed her eyes. Or worse, to impersonate me during bedtime. They launched an investigation, codenamed Operation Cozy Betrayal. Every noble's nightwear was inspected. The Duke of Drowsia's robe contained a map. The Duchess of Tossington's slippers held coded snore patterns. But the most damning discovery, a pair of royal pajamas, identical to the Queen SS, found in the chamber of Sir Winklebottom, the court's most forgettable noble. He's been sleep masquerading as me, Hypnoria gasped. No wonder the royal cat's been ignoring me. Sir Winklebottom was summoned. He confessed immediately, mostly because he thought it was a dream. I just wanted to feel majestic, he whimpered. And your pajamas are so empowering. The Queen sighed. Let him keep the pajamas, but add a label. Not the real Queen. Lady Snoreworthy plucked a forgiving cord. And so, the pajama plot unraveled. Not with fury, but with fashion. It was just past the third yawn bell when Queen Hypnoria awoke to a peculiar sight. a goose waddling across her bedchamber, wearing the royal tiara. "Why?" she asked calmly. "Is Sir Honxalot wearing my crown?" Lord Drowsington, summoned in his emergency slippers, squinted at the bird. "That's not just any goose, Your Majesty. That's the palace's emotional support goose. Indeed, Sir Honxalot had long been a fixture of the royal court, a feathered confidant to anxious nobles, a honking distraction during tense negotiations, and once the sole witness to a scandalous midnight snack theft. But never before had he worn the crown. The Down Council gathered, half-dressed and fully baffled. Lady Snoreworthy clutched her harp. This is either a coup or a costume party gone rogue. Enter Petalina, the chambermaid, cheeks flushed and eyes wide with guilt. "I confess," she said, bowing low, "I borrowed the crown for the staff's secret bedtime pageant." "A what?" The queen blinked. Petalina explained. Every fortnight, the palace staff held a clandestine contest in the laundry hall. They dressed as royals, reenacted bedtime scandals, and awarded prizes for best dramatic snore, most convincing yawn, and loudest pillow monologue. Sir Honxalot, she added proudly, won best regal waddle. Lord Drowsington adjusted his scandal monocle. "And you used the actual crown?" Petalina nodded. It made him feel majestic. The queen sighed, rubbing her temples with a velvet sleep mask. "You impersonated me with a goose." Lady Snoreworthy plucked a cord of disbelief. After a brief deliberation and a restorative nap, the queen issued her decree. "Let the pageant continue, but next time, use a replica crown, and give Sir Honxalot a sash." Petalina bowed. Sir Honxalot honked in triumph, and so the chambermaid's confession became legend. Proof that in somnolentia, even bedtime impersonations required flair, feathers, and a tiara-wearing goose. It was a quiet evening in somnolentia, the kind of hush that settles over velvet curtains and half-finished cups of chamomile. Queen Hypnoria sat on her throne bed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of lavender and legacy. She was bored, not the usual royal boredom, the kind cured by a scandalous bedtime scroll or a surprise goose parade. No, this was deep, ancestral boredom, the kind that made her jaw tremble. And then, it happened. She yawned. Not just any yawn, a yawn so regal, so resonant. It echoed through the marble halls and rattled the chandelier above the royal pajama gallery. The Down Council froze. Lady Snoreworthy dropped her harp. Lord Drowsington clutched his monocle. A nearby noble fainted into a pile of decorative cushions. "That," whispered the Duchess of Tossington, "was the royal yawn. Legend spoke of it. A yawn so powerful, it could end wars, start romances, and once caused a treaty to be signed entirely in napkin doodles." Moments later, a messenger burst in, panting. "Your Majesty, the Kingdom of Insomnia, they've surrendered." "Surrendered?" Hypnoria blinked. "They heard the yawn," the messenger explained. "They took it as a sign of divine fatigue. Their king is now napping. Peace has been declared." Lady Snoreworthy gasped. "The lullaby war. It's over." But that wasn't all. The Duke of Drowsia, standing nearby in a robe embroidered with regret, stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "that yawn, it moved me." He knelt. "Would you consider a royal cuddle?" Gasps, blushes, a harpchord so romantic it made a tapestry weep. The queen smiled. "Only if you bring your own pillow." The royal yawn became legend, a bedtime miracle that ended conflict, sparked courtly affection, and reminded everyone that sometimes the most powerful gesture, is a really good stretch. Long before Queen Hypnoria's reign, back when the royal beds were stuffed with straw and questionable ambition, the kingdoms of Somnolentia and Insomnia were locked in a bitter feud, not over land, not over gold, over bedtime. Somnolentia believed in structured sleep, 3 naps daily, mandatory, yawning breaks, and a national bedtime enforced by lullaby. Insomnia, on the other hand, prided itself on sleepless innovation, candlelit councils, midnight duels, and caffeinated diplomacy. The tension reached its peak in 1432, when King Euonymus of Somnolentia sent a pillow to King Blazewake of Insomnia. It was embroidered with the words, "Sleep is not surrender, it is strategy." Blazewake responded with a blanket, stiff, itchy, and clearly hostile. War loomed. But then came Duchess Drausabel, a noblewoman with a gift for peace, and a voice like warm milk. She proposed a radical idea, a treaty negotiated entirely in bed. Thus, the Nap Pact of 1432 was born. The terms were simple. All negotiations must occur under blankets. No decisions could be made until both parties had yawned at least twice. Disagreements would be settled via pillow duels, soft, slow, and supervised by a royal goose. The pact was signed at dusk, with both kings snoring gently into their quills. Peace returned. To this day, the Nap Pact remains the foundation of Somnolentian diplomacy. Every treaty begins with a nap. Every ambassador travels with a travel pillow. And every royal disagreement ends with someone muttering, "Let's sleep on it." Queen Hypnoria often rereads the pact before bed, tracing the faded ink with her sleepy scepter. "History," she murmurs, "is best written in dreams. It began with a blanket, not just any blanket, a velvet one, embroidered with the royal crest, and a suspiciously motivational phrase, 'Rise softly, rule sleepily.'" Queen Hypnoria frowned. "I don't remember approving bedtime slogans." Lord Drowsington inspected the stitching. "This isn't official embroidery. It's insurgent fluff." Lady Snoreworthy gasped. "The Velvet Rebellion." The Velvet Rebellion was a secret movement rumored to exist among the palace's sleep therapists, pillow fluffers, and rogue lullaby composers. Their mission? To overthrow the monarchy, gently, and replace it with a council of NAP-certified citizens. Their weapon of choice? Propaganda disguised as bedtime accessories. Soon, the palace was flooded with suspiciously inspiring items. Pajamas with phrases like, "Power naps, not power grabs." Slippers labeled, "March softly, and carry a warm beverage." A pillow that whispered, "Down with crowns, up with comfort," when squeezed. The Queen summoned the Down Council for an emergency snuggle strategy session. "We must root out the rebels," she declared, but politely. "No one likes aggressive bedtime enforcement." Lady Snoreworthy suggested a counter-campaign, Nap with Nobility. Royal bedtime gear was rebranded with slogans like, "Snooze like a sovereign," and "Yawn with dignity." Meanwhile, Sir Honxalot the Goose was appointed head of soft security. He patrolled the halls in a tiny velvet cape, honking at suspicious slippers. Eventually, the rebellion fizzled, not with arrests, but with a compromise. The rebels were given honorary titles and invited to design the new royal pajama line. The Velvet Rebellion ended not in flames, but in fluff, proving once again that in Somnolentia, even revolutions preferred to be cozy. In Somnolentia, secrets were never shouted. They were carved, not into stone, not into scrolls, into bedposts. Queen Hypnoria discovered this one foggy morning while inspecting the royal guest chamber. She ran her fingers along the ornate mahogany bedpost and paused. There, beneath the swirl of the sleepy swans, was a message. Lady Whimsy met the Duke here. Twice. No slippers. She blinked. Is this gossip graffiti? Lord Drousington examined the carving. It is the work of the Whispering Chisel, a rogue woodcarver known for etching scandal into furniture. Lady Snoreworthy gasped. The Whispering Chisel? I thought he was a myth, like the sleepwalking scribe or the yawning oracle. The Queen ordered a full inspection of every bedpost in the palace. What followed was a revelation. Messages were everywhere. The Duchess of Tossington snores in Latin. Sir Winklebottom dreams of being a goose. The Queen once sleep mumbled, I miss my tiara. Hypnoria blushed. I did. It was in the laundry. The Down Council debated what to do. These carvings were scandalous, yes, but also oddly poetic. They captured the heartbeat of the court, one sleepy confession at a time. Lady Snoreworthy suggested compiling them into a bedtime anthology, the Bedpost Chronicles, Tales from the Edge of Sleep. The Queen agreed on one condition: no carving in my personal chambers, and absolutely no commentary on my snore. Sir Honks-a-Lot honked in approval, and so the bedposts of somnolentia became more than furniture. They became history, whispered, etched, and polished with royal regret. It began with a yawn, not Queen Hypnoria ass, though hers had recently ended a war, but a suspiciously well-timed yawn from a newcomer in the palace, Master Slumberson, the royal sleep coach. He arrived with glowing credentials, trained in 12 nap disciplines, fluent in lullaby dialects, and certified in pillow alignment therapy. His resume was so impressive, it made Lord Drousington's monocle fog up. But something was off. He asked too many questions, took notes during bedtime, and once, Lady Snoreworthy caught him measuring the Queen's snore rhythm with a velvet stopwatch. Sleep coaches don't usually carry espionage-grade earplugs, she whispered. The Down Council launched a discreet investigation, codenamed Operation Snugglebug. They followed Master Slumberson through the palace, disguised as decorative cushions. What they discovered was shocking. He wasn't just coaching sleep. He was collecting secrets. Each bedtime story he requested from nobles was carefully recorded in a scroll labeled Strategic Yawns and Emotional Vulnerabilities. He's a spy, Lord Drousington declared, a bedtime infiltrator. Queen Hypnoria confronted him during the nightly cocoa ceremony. Why? She asked. Do you know the Duchess of Tossington's recurring dream about dancing geese? Master Slumberson bowed. I confess, I am Agent Dozefield of the Kingdom of Insomnia. I was sent to uncover your bedtime strategies. Gasps, honks, a harpchord of betrayal. But, he added, I've grown fond of your court, your goose, your lullabies. I no longer wish to serve the sleepless. The Queen considered. Then prove your loyalty. Compose a lullaby for somnolentia. He did. It was soft, sincere, and slightly awkward, but it made 3 nobles cry, and 1 chandelier sway gently. The Queen smiled. You may stay, but you'll be monitored by Sir Honks-a-Lot. The sleepy spy became a sleepy ally, proof that even espionage, when wrapped in blankets and forgiveness, could become part of the royal bedtime story. It was during a routine fluffing of the royal pillow archives that Lady Snoreworthy stumbled upon something unusual. A scroll, tightly rolled and tucked inside a pillow. labeled Queen Naptilda S. Nightmares. Handle with caution. The scroll was ancient, wrapped in faded silk and sealed with wax shaped like a yawning lion. Queen Hypnoria squinted at it. Is that bedtime parchment? Lord Drowsington adjusted his monocle. It's older than the Nap Pact, possibly pre-pajama era. They unrolled it carefully, revealing delicate script written in sleep ink. Visible only under moonlight and mild drowsiness, the scroll read, "When the crown rests uneasy, and the goose honks thrice, the true heir shall rise from beneath the bed frame." Lady Snoreworthy gasped. "It's a prophecy, a bedtime prophecy." The Queen frowned. "But I'm the heir. I passed the Royal Yawn exam. I own the ceremonial slippers." Lord Drowsington cleared his throat. "Technically, Your Majesty, you did yawn, but you skipped the snore portion." The Queen blinked. "That was optional." The scroll continued. "Beware the one who dreams in daylight. Their snore shall shake the throne." Suddenly, all eyes turned to Sir Winklebottom, the forgettable noble, who had once impersonated the Queen in pajamas and was rumored to nap during brunch. Could he be the heir? Lady Snoreworthy whispered. Sir Winklebottom, startled from a light doze, muttered, "I dreamed of a goose wearing a crown. Does that count?" The Queen sighed. "We need answers, and possibly a nap." The Down Council agreed to investigate the prophecy, discreetly, sleepily, and with snacks. The dream scrolls stirred a new mystery. Was Hypnoria truly the chosen monarch? Or had the throne been resting on a bedtime secret all along? The royal court of Somnolentia was not known for harsh punishments. Its justice system was built on softness. Literally, trials were held in the chamber of cushions, and verdicts were delivered via pillow toss. But this case was different. Sir Winklebottom, the noble with a talent for sleep impersonation and accidental prophecy, had been accused of a serious offense: pillow fraud. He had allegedly swapped the Queen's ceremonial pillow, the one used for official yawns and treaty naps, with a counterfeit stuffed with inferior fluff. "I swear," he pleaded, standing atop a beanbag, "I thought it was the backup pillow." Queen Hypnoria narrowed her eyes. It lacked lavender and dignity. The Down Council convened for a formal pillow trial. Lady Snoreworthy served as musical bailiff, plucking chords to match the mood. Lord Drowsington presided, wearing his judicial robe, a bathrobe with embroidered gavels. The evidence was presented. Exhibit A, the counterfeit pillow, lumpy, underfluffed, and slightly damp. Exhibit B, the Queen's authentic pillow, regal, aromatic, and rumored to hum lullabies when hugged. Witnesses were called. Sir Honks-a-Lot honked in outrage. The royal seamstress testified that the stitching was criminally uneven. Sir Winklebottom defended himself passionately. "I am guilty only of poor judgment and excessive napping." The jury, composed of retired nap champions, deliberated while sipping warm milk. Verdict: guilty of pillow negligence, not guilty of treason. Punishment: 1 week of fluff duty in the royal laundry and mandatory bedtime story readings to the palace geese. The Queen nodded. "Let this be a lesson. In Somnolentia, we take our pillows seriously." Lady Snoreworthy played a triumphant lullaby. Sir Winklebottom bowed, then tripped over a cushion. The pillow trial ended, not with fury, but with fluff, forgiveness, and a renewed respect for bedtime protocol. In the deepest chamber of the royal linen vault, past the embroidered labyrinth of ceremonial pillowcases and the forbidden shelf of mismatched socks, lay a blanket wrapped in mystery. It was known only as the Duvet of Destiny. Queen Hypnoria had heard whispers about it since childhood. A magical duvet said to reveal glimpses of the future, but only when someone was snoring beneath it. "Is it safe?" she asked, eyeing the velvet folds with suspicion. Lord Drowsington consulted the ancient sleep codex. It's enchanted with predictive fluff, but the visions are notoriously vague. One noble saw a goose and thought it meant war. It was just molting season. Lady Snoreworthy volunteered to test it. She was, after all, the court's most elegant snorer. Her nightly wheezes had once been mistaken for harp music. They tucked her in beneath the Duvet of Destiny, dimmed the chandelier, and waited. Snore, snore, snore. Suddenly the duvet shimmered. A glowing mist rose from its seams, swirling into shapes. First, a crown, floating above a bed of feathers. Then, a slipper, split in two. Finally, a goose, honking at a scroll. Lady Snoreworthy awoke, blinking. "I dreamed of a royal slipper splitting during a dance-off, and a goose delivering bedtime legislation." The Queen frowned. "That sounds ominously bureaucratic." Lord Drowsington scribbled notes. Possibly a prophecy of succession, or a warning about footwear diplomacy. The Queen sighed. Why is destiny always so cryptic? Still, the duvet had spoken, and in somnolentia, even vague bedtime visions were taken seriously. The Queen ordered it placed in the royal bedchamber, not for nightly use, but for emergencies, like treaty negotiations, or choosing between two equally fluffy robes. The Duvet of Destiny became part of royal protocol, a blanket of mystery, snore-powered and slightly judgmental. In somnolentia, diplomacy was rarely conducted in war rooms or council halls. It was conducted under blankets, preferably with snacks. When Queen Hypnoria invited the emissaries of the Kingdom of Insomnia for peace talks, she didn't summon them to the throne room. She invited them to the blanket banquet. The grand dining bed was prepared, a massive quilt-covered platform surrounded by plush cushions and low trays of delicacies. The dress code, formal pajamas. The lighting, candlelit lullabies. The mood, cautiously cozy. The Insomnians arrived stiff and suspicious, dressed in wrinkle-free robes and sipping espresso. Their leader, Ambassador Wakefield, frowned at the soft lighting. "Is this a negotiation or a nap trap?" Queen Hypnoria smiled. "Why not both?" The first course was served, dreamberry tarts and warm milk foam. Conversation began with small talk, snoring patterns, blanket preferences, the ethics of midnight snacking. Then came the main course, stuffed peace pillows, savory pastries shaped like cushions, filled with truce-seasoned vegetables. As the meal progressed, the Queen unveiled the true purpose of the banquet, a new treaty, stitched into a quilt. Each square of the quilt represented a clause, a shared nap zone at the border, mutual lullaby exchanges, a ban on weaponized alarm clocks. Ambassador Wakefield hesitated. "And if we disagree?" The Queen gestured to the dessert tray, truce tiramisu and diplomat tea. "Then we sleep on it," she said. By the end of the evening, the Insomnians were yawning. One delegate curled up beside Sir Honxalot. Another asked for a bedtime story. The treaty was signed with drowsy hands and sealed with a ceremonial yawn. The blanket banquet became legend, a feast where peace was plated, trust was tucked in, and diplomacy was served with whipped cream and a weighted blanket. It began as most somnolentian scandals do, with a boast. I, declared Duke Drowsia at the royal breakfast-in-bed banquet, am the deepest sleeper in the realm. I once napped through a thunderstorm, a harp recital, and a goose stampede. Queen Hypnoria raised an eyebrow over her teacup. Is that so? Lady Snoreworthy leaned in. Your Majesty, I believe this calls for a sleep-off. Gasps. A spoon clattered into a bowl of dreamberry porridge. The royal sleep-off was a rare and sacred contest, a test of endurance, serenity, and snore artistry. It had not been held since the Great Yawn Games of 1391, when a baroness slept so deeply she missed her own coronation. The queen agreed. Let it be done. At dusk, in the grand nap hall. That evening, the hall was transformed into a battleground of blankets. Plush mattresses lined the floor. Candles flickered. A harpist played a lullaby so gentle it made a tapestry droop. The contestants, Duke Drowsia, wrapped in his signature silk robe, Lady Snoreworthy, armed with a lavender-scented sleep mask, Sir Winklebottom, who had accidentally entered thinking it was a buffet, and, to everyone's surprise, Queen Hypnoria herself. I will defend my crown, she said, donning her ceremonial pajamas. The rules were simple. No movement, no talking. First to snore wins bonus points. Last to wake wins the crown of cushioned glory. The contest began. Minutes passed. Then hours. The audience whispered. Sir Honxalot honked once, then fell asleep on the judging scroll. Lady Snoreworthy snored in perfect rhythm. Duke Drowsia drooled artistically. Sir Winklebottom mumbled something about cheese, but it was Queen Hypnoria who triumphed. Her snore, soft, regal, and oddly melodic, echoed through the hall like a lullaby written by destiny. She slept through the night, the morning, and half of brunch. When she finally awoke, the judges crowned her with the cushioned glory and declared, let it be known, the queen reigns not only by day, but by dream. The royal sleep-off ended in triumph, a celebration of slumber, snoring, and sovereign serenity. Deep within the royal dressing chamber, past the shelves of ceremonial slippers and the drawer labeled emergency pajamas, stood a wardrobe unlike any other. It was tall, carved from moonwood, and always slightly ajar, as if inviting secrets to slip inside. Queen Hypnoria had inherited it from her great-aunt, Naptilda, who once claimed it whispered fashion advice in her sleep. Most dismissed it as bedtime babble, until one night it whispered again. Lady Snoreworthy was selecting robes for the Queen-S upcoming nap gala when she heard it. Soft voice, muffled by velvet, not the blue remembers. She froze. Remembers what? The wardrobe creaked. A sleeve fluttered. Faint sigh echoed from within. The Down Council was summoned. Lord Drowsington arrived with his investigative monocle and a goose feather for protection. They opened the wardrobe fully and discovered a hidden compartment behind the gowns. Inside, a stack of folded letters, a faded tiara, and a diary bound in quilted leather. The diary belonged to Queen Naptilda. Its pages revealed a secret. The wardrobe had been enchanted during the Great Sleep Treaty to store not just garments, but memories. Every outfit worn during a scandal, a heartbreak, or a triumph absorbed whispers of the moment. One entry read, wore the lavender robe when I declared peace. It still hums lullabies. Another, the blue gown. I wore it when I lied. Queen Hypnoria read in silence, her fingers brushing the fabric of her own blue robe. "I wore this," she murmured, "when I told the court I wasn't afraid of the prophecy." Lady Snoreworthy plucked a cord of revelation. The queen stood. "From now on, we listen, not just to the people, but to the wardrobe." The whispering wardrobe became part of royal council. Before every major decision, the queen consulted its folds, its size, and its stitched memories. Because in somnolentia, even fashion had feelings, and sometimes the truth was hanging right in front of you. It began with a manifesto, a scroll nailed, quite rudely, to the royal napboard, titled "Awake and Aware, a call to end the tyranny of sleep." Queen Hypnoria read it twice, then once upside down, hoping it would make more sense. It didn't. The scroll was signed by Baron Buzzkill, a sleepless noble from the borderlands of insomnia. He had declared war, not with swords, but with slogans. Sleep is weakness. Naps are lies. Rise and resist the yawn. Lady Snoreworthy gasped so hard she dropped her harp. Lord Drowsington clutched his monocle and muttered, "We're dealing with a full-blown wake zealot." The Baron had formed a movement, the Insomnia Inquisition, a band of sleepless crusaders, armed with alarm clocks, bitter tea, and pamphlets printed in all caps. Their mission? To infiltrate somnolentia and abolish naps, lullabies, and bedtime snacks. The Queen summoned the Down Council for an emergency snuggle strategy session. "We must defend our right to rest," she declared. But gently, Operation Pillow Shield was launched. Royal guards wore reinforced robes. Sir Honxalot patrolled with a honk-powered flashlight. Sleep therapists offered emergency tuck-ins to anxious citizens. Then came the showdown. Baron Buzzkill stormed the palace courtyard at high noon, the most inconvenient time for a nap, and shouted, "Awaken, you sheep of slumber." Queen Hypnoria stepped forward, calm and cozy. "Baron," she said, "have you ever tried a nap?" He scoffed. "Never." She offered him a pillow. "Just 5 minutes. No commitment." He hesitated. The crowd held its breath. Sir Honxalot honked softly. The Baron sat. He lay back. He closed his eyes. He snored. When he awoke, he wept. "I dreamed of peace and pie." The Queen smiled. "Sleep is not surrender. It's sanctuary." The Insomnia Inquisition dissolved, not with battle, but with blankets. Baron Buzzkill became a bedtime ambassador, preaching the gospel of rest with newfound reverence. Somnolentia rejoiced. The lullaby bells rang, and bedtime, once again, was safe. It was a quiet morning in Somnolentia, the kind where even the chandeliers seemed to blink sleepily. Queen Hypnoria awoke, stretched regally, and reached for her lavender eye mask. That's when she saw it, her crown, not on its velvet pedestal, not in the royal vault, but sitting casually on her nightstand. She blinked. Did I sleep with it? Lady Snoreworthy arrived moments later, harp in hand and eyebrows raised. Your Majesty, the ceremonial crown is not a bedtime accessory. Lord Drowsington followed, clutching the royal inventory scroll. It was last seen in the throne room, guarded, glowing, revered. The Queen stared at the crown. It looked different, less majestic, more personal. I had a dream, she murmured. I was walking through the palace barefoot. No titles, no robes, just me. And the crown followed me like a puppy. Lady Snoreworthy plucked a cord of dreamy symbolism. The Down Council debated, was this a prank? A prophecy? A sleepwalking incident involving Sir Winklebottom and a misplaced tiara? Then Sir Honxalot waddled in, honked once, and nudged the crown gently with his beak, as if to say, "It belongs here." Queen Hypnoria smiled. Perhaps the crown wanted a break, a moment off duty. She decided to leave it there, just for the day. No ceremonies, no declarations, just a quiet reminder that even royalty needs rest. The crown on the nightstand became a symbol of humility, of dreams, and of the quiet power found between dusk and dawn. From that day forward, every monarch of Somnolentia was allowed one night a year to sleep beside the crown. No guards, no fanfare, just the soft hum of sovereignty and a really good pillow. The moon hung low over Somnolentia, casting a silver hush across the palace. The lullaby bells had rung. The cocoa had been sipped. Even Sir Honxalot had tucked his beak beneath a wing. But Queen Hypnoria remained awake. She stood at the edge of the royal balcony, wrapped in her ceremonial robe, gazing out at the kingdom she had ruled. Not with iron, but with linen. So much had happened. The Velvet Rebellion, the Dream Scrolls, the Whispering Wardrobe, the Insomnia Inquisition. Each chapter, a bedtime tale, each scandal, a soft lesson. And now, the final snore approached. It was tradition. When a monarch felt their reign had reached its dreamiest peak, they performed the final snore, a symbolic sleep so deep it echoed through the realm and marked the beginning of a new era. The Down Council gathered. Lady Snoreworthy plucked a gentle cord. Lord Drowsington dabbed his eyes with a quilted handkerchief. Queen Hypnoria lay upon the grand nap throne, the crown of cushioned glory resting beside her. She closed her eyes. The room held its breath. Then she snored. It was soft, regal, a lullaby in itself. Outside, the stars twinkled in approval. The geese honked in harmony. And across Somnolentia, citizens paused, smiled, and tucked themselves in. The final snore was complete. But this was not an ending. It was a beginning of new dreams, new stories, and new sleepy scandals waiting to unfold. As the palace lights dimmed and the pages of history turned to velvet, one final message was stitched into the royal quilt. To rule with rest is to rule with grace. May your dreams be gentle and your cocoa always warm. And with that, the kingdom slept. Good night.